Hi, my name is Sarah Moffett, and I am presenting today about perspective taking. In this presentation, we will cover why perspective taking skills are important, the two approaches, theory of mind and relational frame theory, the developmental trends shown through data collected during research, and a conclusion to pull all important points together. Having a good repertoire of perspective-taking skills can help with building and sustaining lasting relationships with others. Developmental psychologists claim it can assist complex reasoning skills for children, and building these skills can be essential to individuals with autism or perspective-taking deficits. Theory of mind, one of the main approaches to perspective-taking, consists of 5 levels. At level 1, you have simple visual perspective taking, which is the understanding that different people can see different things. Level 2 is complex visual perspective taking. The individual can judge how something appears to another person and what that person can see. Level 3 is based on the principle that seeing is knowing. In this level, the individual has the understanding that people know things because of their direct or indirect experience with them. Level 4 is true beliefs. It utilizes the idea that one can use their knowledge to predict another's actions. Similar to level 4 is level 5. Predictions are made, however, they are based on false belief instead of knowledge or true beliefs. This level requires a complex level of knowledge. When training theory of mind, each level is different. In level 1, simple visual perspective taking, the child will be presented with a card that has 2 different images on either side. The presenter would then ask the child, "What do you see?" and "What do I see?" Level 2, complex visual perspective taking, the child is shown a card that has the same image on either side. However, one of the images is right side up and the other is upside down. The presenter asks, "When you look at the card, is it right side up or upside down?" Then asks, "When I look at the card, is it right side up or upside down?" Corrective feedback is given for both level 1 and 2 trainings. Since level 3 is the understanding that seeing equals knowing, it is trained by having the child close their eyes. The presenter hides an item in a box and then tells the child to open his or her eyes. The child is asked, "Do you know what is in the box? Why not?" The presenter then shows the child what is in the box and repeats the question. "Do you know what is in the box?" and followed up with, "How do you know?" The child is then asked the same questions from the perspective of something or someone else, such as a doll. Level 4 is based on true beliefs. Training this level, there are 4 objects used. 2 are the same and 2 are different. The presenter places each of the same items next to one of the different items. The presenter sets up the scenario by stating, "This morning you saw object 1 next to object 2. You did not see object 1 next to object 3. The statement is followed by the question, "Where do you think object 1 is?" and is followed by, "Why?" Next, the child is asked, "Where will you go to get object 1? Why will you go to object 2? Just as in level 3 training, the child is asked to answer the questions through the perspective of another person or object. Since level 5 is based on false belief, it is the most complex level to theory of mind training. The presenter shows the child a recognizable container, such as a purse, jewelry box, lunchbox, etc. The container is closed prior to presentation. The presenter then asks the child, "What do you think is inside?" Inside the container is an atypical object to be found inside. For instance, if it was a lunchbox, the child may presume there is food in there when there is really a toy inside. After the child's response, the presenter opens the container and shows the child the item. The presenter asks the child, "What did you think was inside before I opened the container?" What is really inside the container? Again, a similar scenario is carried out from the perspective of another person or object, and the child is asked the same questions again. In teaching Derived Relational Responding to Young Children by Barnes, Holmes, and McHugh, they discuss 6 types of relational frames: coordination, opposition, distinction, comparison, hierarchy, and perspective taking. In coordination, the relations pertain to identity or sameness. Bidirectional relations, such as words representing objects, is just one example. It is noted that this is the first stage that must be built in order to respond correctly to other relational frames. Opposition requires abstraction and the relational frame of coordination. Opposition uses skills developed in naming and coordinating words with tangible or visible stimuli to be able to identify each other's opposites. For instance, hot and cold. In order to know it is cold, one must be able to identify hot and vice versa. Distinction is the response to differences among stimuli. Comparison frames can be qualitative or quantitative. They compare stimuli among many dimensions such as size, speed, weight, etc. Comparison frames become quantitative when their dimensions are quantified, such as Joe's house is 2 times the size as Dave's house, and Dave's house is 2 times the size as Matt's house. Then what can be derived is that Joe's house is 4 times bigger than Matt's. Perspective taking or deictic frames are the ones in which we are most concerned with for this presentation. This is probably the most complex relational frame. Relational frame theory is a relatively new approach to perspective taking. It tries to delineate repertoires for identifying the relation between 2 or more people or things, known as relational repertoires. These relational repertoires are needed in order to successfully engage in perspective-taking performances. Deictic frames are thought to be the foundation to perspective-taking, with each frame increasing in complexity and building from the other. Behavior analysis supports the relational frame theory approach as a behavioral description for cognition and language. Behavior analysis sees perspective taking as generalized operant responding. As mentioned in the previous slide, deictic frames are the 3 relational frames concerned with perspective taking in the relational frame theory approach. The deictic frames consist of I, you, here, there, and now, then. The frames range from rather simple to more complex. The 3 levels of complexity within relational responses are simple relational responses, reversed relational responses, and double reversed relational responses. What that means is that for each relational frame, there can be levels of complexity. For instance, I-you relations can range from simple, which is the least complex, to double reverse, the most complex. In a simple relational response, the context of an I-you relation, an example would be the presenter identifies what each has and then asks them, what do I have? What do you have? Simple relational responses are similar in each context. For here-there relations, the presenter could simply state, I am sitting on a red chair, and you are sitting on a black chair. Then ask, where are you sitting? Where am I sitting? In a now-then simple relation, an example would be, yesterday I was drawing. Today I am cutting. What was I doing then? What am I doing now? These types of questions to help identify whether or not individual understands the deictic frames needed for effective communication throughout life. Reversed relational responses are a little more complex. It requires the listener to transform their perspective to that of the other person. In this example, the red block is transferred from IU and the yellow block is transferred from U to I. The last and most complex relational response is the double reverse. In this situation, the listener has to first reverse the relation, then reverse it once more, which in essence results in the original relation. Therefore, it is a simultaneous reversal of two relations. In this example, the relational frames of I and U and here, there are mutual relations, and both are reversed in order to get to your double reversal. The answer would be they would each end up in the same chair they started in. Studies have showed that perspective-taking ability is directly correlated with age, where younger children, ages 3 to 5, were shown to have the most errors, and the number of errors decreased as age increased. This graph was taken from a study by Barnes, Holmes, and McHugh. It shows 5 age groups: adults, adolescents, late childhood, middle childhood, and early childhood, and how they correspond to the number of errors through simple, reversed, and double reversed trials of relational frames. The data visually indicates a correlation between age and perspective-taking abilities. Notice the bar graph from Barnes, Holmes, and McHugh. Their data show the mean number of errors recorded for theory of mind criteria, true and false belief. On the y-axis, they have listed the mean number of errors from 0 to 50 in increments of 5. The x-axis represents the 5 age groups, the same as in the previous slide. This graph clearly displays the greatest number of errors within early childhood. In conclusion, these studies have shown there is a strong correlation between perspective-taking abilities and developmental age. Both theory of mind and relational frame theory are two approaches used to measure and teach perspective-taking skills. Through the research reviewed, both theory of mind and relational frame theory support the findings of correlation between age and perspective-taking ability. For individuals in which these skills may be lacking, using a behavioral approach to establish perspective-taking repertoires, such as relational frame theory approach, can greatly increase these skills for both typically developing and developmentally delayed children. Relational frame theory trials were shown to be able to teach perspective-taking skills to children using reinforcement strategies. Further research on perspective-taking abilities and the use of relational frame approach is recommended. Thank you for watching my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it.